Will New York City Mayor Eric Adams be removed from office? What exactly is going on with Social Security? And Trump attempts to stop sex trafficking. Get those mental health break puppies ready, editor. And more on this week's America Uncovered headlines. Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. Let's start out with something fluffy. Bird flu. I guess I should have said feathery rather than fluffy. The U.S. Department of Agriculture has issued a conditional approval for a bird flu vaccine so long as it demonstrates safety, purity, and reasonable expectation of efficacy. But before anyone gets worried about this devolving into another war between the states and federal government over vaccine mandates, you can relax. This vaccine is for chickens to help fight the ongoing spread of bird flu that's wiping out countless chickens and causing egg prices to skyrocket. So thankfully, us humans won't be going through another lockdown. It'll be chickens. They're used to being cooped up. A Delta Airlines flight from Minneapolis crashed and overturned at Toronto Airport. Several passengers were injured, but all 80 people on board the plane survived. Officials haven't said what the cause of the crash was, but leading up to it, the airport saw 20 inches of snow from 2 snowstorms. The appropriate course of action would be waiting for more details to emerge and making any necessary changes to ensure something like this never happens again. But that won't feed the insatiable culture war machine, now will it? It's time for everyone's favorite game, speculate and spread hate. Maybe this is the result of DEI. Or maybe it's because of Trump and Elon Musk's cuts to the FAA. And now that the culture war blame game is getting massive clicks, it's time for every single airplane crash to be included, like this mid-air collision of 2 small single-engine planes at an Arizona airport. The truth is, small, non-commercial planes crash more often than you think. But it's in people's minds now, so push it and keep the blame going. I miss the good old days when plane crashes used to unite the nation instead of being something that divided us even further. And you know it's really bad when I refer to 9/11 as the good old days of political discourse. 88-year-old Pope Francis has been hospitalized for over a week and was found to have pneumonia in both of his lungs as tests show a complex picture of what's wrong with him. Hopefully His Holiness will be able to make a full recovery. If he's not, the Vatican will have to assemble a papal conclave to vote on who the next pope will be. But who wants to waste time electing a leader with a Democratic vote? When it's time to replace an old white guy who can't fulfill his duties anymore, you know who needs to be appointed. Pope Kamala Harris. Why be a girl boss when you can be a girl pope? Besides all the complex theological reasons for it. As you may have heard, a lot of people are worried about Donald Trump's constant battles with judges and a so-called executive order tornado, which sounds like a powerful but boring Pokemon attack. Some are calling it a constitutional crisis and saying that Trump's on his way to a legal meltdown, bringing the U.S. ever closer to a dictatorship. But there's no need to be concerned. Trump wants to be a president to all Americans, not just those that voted for him. He doesn't want to make anyone nervous, except the people around him while he dances with a saber. So he decided to put everyone's fears to rest by posting on Truth Social, "He who saves his country does not violate any law." Yep, those fears are now at rest, sleeping like a baby with colic. CNN reported that this quote is often attributed to Napoleon and said Trump is channeling him, which is unbelievable. The CNN compared Trump to a historical figure other than Hitler. Progress. So it appears Trump is indicating that as long as he improves the country, the means by which he does it are justified. I get the sentiment, but there's a pretty big TBD asterisk to add to that, because improvement can be subjective. I'm sure the Biden administration thought they were improving the country by pressuring Meta to censor content, and I'd argue they were definitely breaking not only laws, but amendments, especially, the first one. That said, I don't know how much I'd worry about Trump being a dictator in the style of Napoleon, mainly because Napoleon hardly ever posted to social media, probably because it was hard to type on his phone with his hand in his shirt. Also, Trump's quest to cut the federal workforce, eliminate agencies, and slash bureaucracy isn't very conducive to a dictatorship. And it isn't exactly new.
First, I am ordering a reduction of the federal bureaucracy by at least 100,000 positions over the next 4 years. At least 10% of these cuts must come from senior management. The cuts can come from attrition. I see no need for layoffs. These cuts will make our government more efficient and more effective.
So essentially, Trump is less a dictator and more of a plagiarist. He took Clinton's idea and added his "you're fired" branding to it. Although it's more of a, here's an offer to buy you out, I'd suggest you take it because there's a very real chance if you don't, you might be fired. It's just that won't sell as many t-shirts. This image of him as a king posted by the White House's official account on X might sell some shirts, though wearing it might lead people to wearing shirts of the Founding Fathers, jumping you and throwing your Mike's Hard Iced Tea into the harbor. Many are also worried about Trump's negotiating style, especially with the U.S.'s allies. I just covered his spat with the EU, check it out. Then there's Ukraine. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky rejected a deal to give the U.S. half of its mineral resources in exchange for continued support, and said he wouldn't recognize the Russia-U.S. talks in Saudi Arabia since the discussions didn't include Ukraine, even though the talks were a general revival of diplomacy between the U.S. and Russia and were not just about Ukraine. Way to make it all about you, Zelensky. As you can imagine, Trump handled the situation with humility and grace, easing Zelensky's concerns, and I'm just kidding. Trump blasted Zelensky for not keeping track of the money sent to Ukraine, called him a dictator for not holding elections, and blamed him for not ending the war sooner.
Where is all the money that's been given? Where is it going? And I've never seen an accounting of it. And I think I have the power to end this war. And I think it's going very well. But today I heard, we weren't invited. Well, you've been there for 3 years. You should have ended it 3 years. You should have never started it. You could have made a deal.
Now, in context, these comments appear to be Trump saying that the war could have been prevented had a deal been struck early on. Seeing this, much of the media is showing how nuanced the whole situation is and explaining, I'm just kidding. Much of the media is saying that Trump said Ukraine should have never started it and claiming he's spreading misinformation, that Ukraine started the war. Was that what Trump was saying? That Ukraine started the war? Who knows? It's impossible to keep track of what he means with his endless stream of consciousness. But one thing is certain. A nuanced conversation needs to be had about the U.S.'s obligations and the right way to end this war as quickly as possible. But unfortunately, tribalism is out of control and we aren't as civil as we were back in the good old days of 9/11. And after the break, what will happen to New York City Mayor Eric Adams? Welcome back. Remember that Democratic aide that was fired for filming himself having relations in the Senate hearing room? Well, he now has a graphic OnlyFans. Now, you might expect me to make some sort of joke at this person's expense. Enough on the right are trying to use this to paint the left as immoral or depraved. But I find this to be inspiring and downright American. When faced with adversity, this young man decided to embrace the spirit of capitalism, grind it out, grit his teeth, and bear it, and become an entrepreneur. He pulled himself up by the bootstraps, then used those bootstraps to, for something else. Speaking of people apparently pimping themselves out, New York City Mayor Eric Adams. Last September, Adams was indicted on federal corruption charges. 1 year after he criticized the Democratic Party's handling of immigration, saying the migrant crisis would destroy New York City. His trial was set for this April. However, the Justice Department told prosecutors to drop the case. In response to this, 4 New York City deputy mayors and 7 federal prosecutors resigned, which teaches an important lesson. Try to live your life in such a way that if you avoid something bad happening to you, everyone around you won't quit their jobs in protest because they think you had it coming. The hearing was held over dismissing the charges against Adams, and a federal judge said they would soon rule on whether or not to proceed with the case. New York Governor Kathy Hochul weighed removing Mayor Eric Adams from office, but she worried it might seem undemocratic. So ultimately, she decided against it, instead deciding to just limit his power, which isn't in any way undemocratic. I think I can see where this is heading. New York City Mayor Pope Kamala Harris! The Senate confirmed Kash Patel as FBI director in a 51-49 vote. Democrats and even a few Republican senators were worried about Patel, fearing he'll politicize his role and go after perceived enemies, because no FBI director has ever been accused of doing that before. Oh wait, some think Patel can reform the FBI and make it less political, since Director Wray was accused of politicizing the agency. What happened to the good old days of the FBI, when its leaders had integrity and told Martin Luther King Jr. to kill himself? We'll all just have to keep an eye on how Kash is keeping an eye on things. Those unwavering, unblinking eyes. The White House says that Elon Musk is not a DOJ employee, has no decision-making authority, and can only advise Trump and communicate his findings. So Musk isn't getting paid and is more like a top-level advisor. Hopefully he can advise Trump to also wear the nerdiest Halloween costume imaginable. The latest hullabaloo regarding Doge is alleged massive fraud with Social Security. Musk claims that nearly 20 million people over the age of 100 and some as old as 369 are marked as alive on the Social Security database, and joked that this could be proof of vampires. While this sounds alarming, there's a perfectly logical explanation. Vampires! Or even more logically, the Social Security Administration has long been aware of this. These 100-plus-year-olds aren't receiving any benefits, and their deaths just haven't been recorded because they died decades before the use of electronic death reporting. So why is it labeled this way on the chart? It's actually a very simple explanation involving coding. And to guide you through it, let's look at programmers discussing this on social media. Some are saying Musk is an idiot and causing panic over something he doesn't understand, while others are saying the ones calling Musk an idiot are idiots, and that the Social Security system's inefficiencies can build up over time and go from small errors to large errors. Still others are calling those who said Musk was right idiots because this is an old programming code known as COBOL, which causes missing dates to revert to 1875. And would you believe that others are calling those people idiots because they've either never heard of COBOL or have and say that's not how it works? Idiot. See, totally simple. Reading through the discourse on this is like seeing rival gangs of wizards arguing that their knowledge of the arcane is superior. Meanwhile, the rest of us are just like, I want to be able to afford eggs again. Please stop taxing me. Those $5,000 dividend checks Musk is talking about sending Americans as a rebate on money saved by Doge better be real. I haven't had an omelet in months. So maybe there's massive fraud. Maybe it's an error. Maybe it's an outdated system. Or maybe it's a little of everything. Whatever the case, maybe we should update the system to something a little more modern and not something so old it feels like it was coded by vampires. There's been a lot of heavy topics in this episode, so let's lighten the mood. Sex trafficking. You hear that? That's the sound of this video being demonetized. Temporary head of the federal government's Office of Refugee Resettlement, Melissa Harper, is making changes to the office's Unaccompanied Alien Children program in a move against migrant sex trafficking. If you haven't heard of this program, I'm jealous of your posture, being able to stand up straight without the extra heavy burden on your mind. I've covered it before. It involves placing unaccompanied migrant children with guardians in the United States so they don't remain unaccompanied. There are a lot of much-needed America Uncovered mental health breaks in those episodes. Needless to say, migrant children are placed with people who aren't well vetted, and bad things happen to them, including sex trafficking for teens. The biggest change to this program will be requiring all potential sponsors of the children to be fingerprinted and for the fingerprints to be sent to the FBI to check for criminal records. There are critics of this, and shockingly, the criticism wasn't, wait, they haven't already been doing that? Why is it taking so long? This decision is receiving some pushback, with critics saying that making the vetting process more thorough could delay the amount of time it takes to place children with sponsors. And of all the criticisms I've ever heard, that's certainly one of them. Why make sure we're not sending minors off with monsters when we can just roll the dice and be slightly quicker about it? I'm assuming the minors wouldn't mind waiting a bit longer if it ensures they won't be abused and kept locked in cages, like vaccinated, cooped-up chickens on lockdown. And before you go, be sure to check out this other episode of America Uncovered. The algorithm knows is best for you. Don't question the algorithm. It knows if you do. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thank you for watching America Uncovered.